Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Roll'em Cast with us over here at Roll'em If You Got 'Em. Carl, as always, joined with Dakota.
Hello, everybody.
This episode, we are going to just kind of talk about our experience with the 40K Horde mode that has been kind of going around. It was created, written, developed, whatever you want to call it, by the Poor Hammer podcast guys. Um, we've gotten a handful of games in with it. It's been a couple of months since we've played these games, but we wanted to just kind of sit down and talk about our experience with it, likes, dislikes, things that if you haven't played it yet, um, might be good to know before playing it, or if you have played it, and maybe you felt some of these things also. But we'll get into those. Let's preface this here with we've played three different point costing games. So the ones that they have outlined are like 1,000 points and 2,000 points. I don't think they have. That's pretty much all they had, right? It was just those
Uh,
two.
Yeah, it basically balanced between 1,000 to 2,000 points.
hmm
Is
Um,
pretty much it.
so we started with some 1,000 point games. We got to get in a couple of 2,000 point games, and then I do think we found a Goldilocks zone at like a 1,500 point game with like
Mhm.
three spawns for the enemies and stuff. But yeah, we'll get into some of that. What were some of the things that we liked most about this? Do you think?
Yeah, I mean the one thing that I really liked about Horde mode, obviously I've played more like competitively per se. Where you're trying to just like optimize stuff and play. It was nice for learning your stuff because you could be like, oh hey, I'm gonna throw my army of whatever I'm playing Space Marines. You could throw it out there, or at least part of it out there, and then you kind of just get like reps on using the same weapons over and over, just to, like kind of get you that muscle memory for learning your stuff. So you know, and it's pretty straightforward. With the horde mode, obviously they have like some rules set up for it to being like an AI if you're not aware of it, and essentially like you just do like specific like the the horde army can just only do a few things. So like you don't have to like think about what they're doing tactically. It's more like they're going to do this when they activate, and then you just kind of do like whatever you want to do. As far as like the mission and everything goes that you're playing.
Right.
Um,
They're more of an artificially unintelligence.
yeah. So like it was just really nice. Like really nice. I thought for learning your stuff, just to kind of get like those reps in about playing stuff and even like positioning it a little bit and you know like that. I mean, I think we played about 6 games total, I think,
I
and if
think
you run the same army for 6 games or, like, the same types of units, you're just gonna remember their kind of, weapons and all that type of stuff.
right. Like especially if you play a 2,000 point game, means each player is bringing 1,000 points.
Mhm, yeah.
Um, so if you're only bringing 1,000 points out of what you would normally have as like a 2,000 point list, it lets you just kind of focus on like a mini list
Mhm,
and be like, oh, like this is the core of my 2,000 point list. Let me bring them, and then like I'm just gonna get real comfortable with these guys. It's
mhm,
nice. I would even, I think this would be a kind of a pretty beginner friendly way of going about teaching someone the game, even
mhm, yeah.
if you are well versed enough to take care of all of the needs of the horde kind of
Uh-huh,
yourself.
yeah.
Which I know we kind of would split those up, just whoever wasn't busy. Basically, if
Right.
someone's like, well, I only have one thing to shoot, and then someone else is like, well, I got six things to shoot, and it's like, okay, well, I'll take care of horde stuff this round, and
Mhm, yeah.
those kinds of things.
Yeah, I thought it was good. I mean, I know you've played fewer games than I've played, but it was even, you get your stuff out there in, like, the one Death Guard game, and then you're just like, "Okay, I'm just rolling and looking at my Death Guard, units and that
hmm
type of stuff." Even too for, like, my Space Marines because I didn't have too many games of Space Marines and, just trying, like, out different units and that type of stuff. It was fun.
Right. Yeah, it was nice. It let me just kind of break things down the bite size. Now we did play against Tyranids every game.
Mhm.
Um, that wasn't the every game we played, it was just the two of us. We had plans to have a third for the 2,000 point games because we played those in person, and we were going to play those against either Tyranids or Death Guard or whatever. But our third ended up not being able to make it, so we just kind of pivoted last minute and then
Mhm.
just went against Tyranids. But it was okay.
Yeah.
Uh, and then it was also nice for learning some of the things that the Tyranids were going to be doing. We with rolling random enemies for the horde, it kind of allowed you to see a lot of data slates that like I'd never really even looked at before. Because they were missing keywords or whatever for any Tyranid list that I had built. So there were units that I flat out just skipped over without
Mhm.
really looking into their data slate. So this was kind of nice for that also.
Yeah, no, it was really interesting for that because 'cause you're just like, "Okay, I know these units are supposed to," the quote unquote like units people are playing. Then you get them out there and it's just like, "Okay, like I see what makes this unit good or bad or
Hmm.
whatever." Because 'cause you're not really thinking about points. You're just more like rolling it and you're like, "That unit's spawning." Um, which we rolled differently. Carl, you could probably explain how we rolled to, like, generate the horde army because we didn't just do it normally, they have it set up, you just roll 2d6, and it puts you in a bracket, and then you pick from that bracket, but we didn't really necessarily wanna just, like, pick the units out of that bracket because we were playing on TTS, so we had a little bit more flexibility of just what we were spawning.
Sure. Yeah, we just rolled everything. Like we would roll
Mhm,
the bracket with our 2d6, and then if there was 20 or less, we would roll, a d20, a d12, whatever, d8 if there's only 8 or less, whatever. If there was more than 20, we would roll a d6 for a high low. You're like, oh, it's low. All right, roll the d20 and just start top left, count your way down, and then
mhm,
move to the next column. If it was high, we would start bottom right, count your way up on the d20, and then over to the middle column, count your way up again. So our spawns were truly random. We didn't pick our our opponents. We rolled everything. It leaned into kind of a chaotic fun way of doing it,
mhm, yeah,
but at the same time we didn't spawn a lot of the swarmy kind of tyrannid stuff that you would expect out of air quotes here horde mode. We kind of spawned some like their bigger solo stuff, which is fine, but at no point did we have like 40 termagants and gargoyles and hormagaunts, like just literal hordes of
mhm,
enemies. We'd get some occasionally. So that knowing what we know now, like if we played again, we might make a rule that's like, hey, if there's a 20 man of a unit in whatever bracket we roll and we don't have one of those on the table, like we do that first.
yeah.
That way we really get that swarming horde of endless bugs.
Yeah, that sorry. That's definitely what came up, like, for the Tyranids, like, we'd roll like, I know in a couple of the games, it just seemed like we were always rolling in their top bracket, and then we'd roll, like, a big monster, which is fine when they're, like, the big monsters are fine. It just I think when we talk about, like, the game specifically, you'll see, like, the game balance-wise, um, like, it just got skewed because it was more like, "Oh, they just spawned 1 monster," and then it's like, "Okay, well, that's the one thing I have to deal with," not like it's not like they had, like, 4 units that came on the board that we couldn't necessarily deal with, and then, like, 2 more units coming on that kinda backed them up, and where it's just like, "Oh, there's just too mu like, we're just too overwhelmed." I don't
Mhm.
think we ever really had that type of experience.
Yeah, yeah. So it would kind of been, like so the way that the tables go, if you roll 2 on 2d6, there's no spawn for that zone. There's a deployment zone for the enemies for every 500 points that you're bringing to the table between you and your partner. So if you're playing 2,000 point game, they have 4 deployment zones, and each one of them will have a spawn each round. So it goes, 3-4, pretty simple stuff. 2 Ripper Swarms, um, 2 Pyrovores, 1 Neurolictor, whatever. 5-6, you start to get into some of the more spammy stuff. 10 Barbgants, 20 Hormagaunts, 22 Neurogants, 7-9, 7 through 9. Um, you start to see more of the big stuff. 6 Zone Thropes, 3 Biovores, a Nero Tyrant, and 3 Tyrant Guard. These are examples. Obviously, there's lots of options in each table, 20 or so probably. And then there's the 10 plus Norn Assimilator, Norn Emissary, Swarm Lord, and some Tyrant Guard, whatever.
Yeah.
So I know there was a couple of games where we had like back to back Norn Seminary spawn.
Yeah.
Now in the 1,000 point game, it was like it took everything we had to deal with one, and then another one spawns, and we're like, oh yeah, we're no, like no,
Yeah, it just, like
we
it
just
just
don't have it.
the second one just, like, spawned, and then 'cause, in getting into, like, the 1K game a little bit, I played Space Marines, you were playing Knights,
Hmm.
and the whatever we spawned the 2 of the same thing right in a row. We dealt with the first one, which took a lot, and then the second one came out, and it just came out and, like, dunked on your one Knight that you
Yeah,
had.
yeah. I only had
Um,
one knight. I had a
yeah.
knight warden. I think
Yeah, I don't remember which one it was specifically, but and we'll caveat, Knights aren't great for this game
or
mode.
not.
They're not just because, like, how points work out,
One
but,
thing that was nice is that I had such limited options. It allowed me more freedom to kind of pilot the horde and do a
mhm,
lot
yeah,
of their stuff, which from a time management standpoint was probably super useful.
yeah,
Um, only having 1 to 3 things, 1 to 3 units really to worry about.
yeah, but,
But yeah,
yeah. And the thing too with, like, even, like, the rolling, I felt like in a lot of the games, it was just, like, all high rolling, not even low rolling,
mhm.
where there wasn't like, "Oh, yeah, just, like, this small thing coming on."
Yeah. I mean, what if instead of a a spawn out of bracket 4, you took a spawn out of bracket 1 and a spawn out of bracket 3, or 2
Mhm,
spawns out of bracket
yeah,
2,
mhm, yeah,
which if we apply our which we just kind of made up, the if there's not a horde, especially out of the 4 core Tyranid units, Tyragants, Neurogants, Barbgants, no, not Barbgants, Gargoyles, Hormagaunts, Neurogants, and Termagants. Yes.
mhm,
If there's not one of those and you roll something out of that bracket, you grab that.
yeah,
So if we would have said, hey, on a 10 plus bracket 4, let's grab something out of bracket 1 and something out of bracket 3, it would have looked more like instead of a Norn Assimilator, it would have been like 10 Hormagaunts
mhm,
and a Nero Tyrant with 22 Neurogants.
yeah, mhm,
Yeah. Like, oh, we're putting 33 models on the table instead of one. Like,
right, yeah,
so yeah,
yeah,
when we play again, I think we will lean into like the let's spam units against us and see
yeah,
what happens.
yeah, the spam the units, and then more I wouldn't say more like smart rolling, but just being like, "Okay, this is what we got, like, this is how we should play it out."
Right. Like
Um,
if a Tyranid invasion was happening, would they literally just send their big no, they would send tons of little stuff and then a little bit of big things to support
mhm, yeah,
the little guys.
yep,
But
yeah.
yeah.
Even okay, so before we kinda get into, like, the games too, kinda the last couple things last thing is, I know that when we played too, um, we just continually messed up. They have this system of misery cards, which essentially makes it harder for you. We, like, continually just messed it up or forgot about it or whatever. Because there's kinda a lot of moving parts in this,
Yeah.
like, for the Horde. Because it's like once you get to round 3, the Horde gets, like
They
well,
get a
we
bonus to their rolls. They start adding
which
points.
we continually added that, but they also get, like, don't they get, like, lethal like, there's some for, like, lethal hits or sustained hits and, like,
Yeah.
stuff like that, and we just forgot about it because it's like, "Well, I don't play Tyranids anyways, I'm just gonna roll the attack off their thing," and then forget, like, "Oh, shit, that should have lethal hits on it,"
Yep.
and we forgot about it. So, like
Which was that was kind of, and then not just the misery cards, but I know one time on TTS we messed up like our secret objectives
yeah.
because I had the one that basically said like blow up a bunch of buildings.
Mhm.
And Dakota kind of did something odd one turn and just like went out of his way to blow up a building, and I was like, "Oh, that's weird." Because the way we were doing on TTS is we took a normal deck of cards
Uh-huh.
and we said, "All right, ace through 10 red is 1 through 10, ace through 10 black is 11 through 20."
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
then we dealt out the cards and we're referencing the sheet, and what I don't know where the fault landed, but we both ended up with the same card,
Yeah,
which
we both
it
basically had the same mission, which we didn't want.
in real life would have been impossible because you have a physical card that someone's holding. So like we
Mhm.
screwed that up, and so which in real life I printed out the cards and had those ready, and so that was super nice to have a legitimate physical card. Um,
Mhm.
I know I've looked into putting cards into TTS before, only briefly, and was like, nope, this is not something I want to take the time to learn for
Yeah.
whatever minuscule thing I was doing. But if that were to happen for this horde mode, if they just had a one of them little workshop things on tabletop sim just to get the deck of cards, the three different deck of cards,
Mhm.
be it'd be absolutely dope.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, so that was one of our basically
yeah,
mess
there's, I
ups.
guess you could say there's a decent amount of like bookkeeping
Uh-huh.
to go with this game mode. I think if you played it enough, you would eventually stop forgetting these little things.
Uh-huh.
Uh, but yeah, something that definitely needs to be noted is like going into it, be prepared that you got some paperwork to track kind of throughout, and try to find something to make sure you remember that.
Yeah.
Like if you had a laminated sheet with a dry erase marker and literally went line by line after each round or whatever, like, okay, yep, we did this, we did that, we did our secondary objectives, that would that'd be super useful.
Yep. Um,
Um, okay.
alright, so kind of gonna give we'll kinda get into now, like, the games we played. I think so we played about 6. Um, played 1K, 1500, and 2K. Just gonna kinda give you, like, our overview of the games in general.
Yep.
Um
We played a couple of 1Ks first, then we played a couple of 2Ks, and then we're like, let's try 15 because
Mhm.
we had some complaints, maybe too strong of a word, about 1K and 2K, but we were like, I think 15 might be our Goldilocks zone here.
Yeah.
Uh,
Um,
so
yeah, so
the 1K we kind of already talked about.
yeah, that was our first games too, like, our very first game we played
We had
1K.
500 points each. I had a knight, probably not a
Uh,
great idea. We ended up
I had,
getting
like
double Norn assimilator or emissary, or one and then the other. I don't know, but it was
yeah, I played Space Marines in those, and I brought, like, balanced, but it's not like I was brought, like, you know, completely, like, perfectly balanced, and then it was just like, "Oh, I don't have a weapon profile to deal with this stuff."
now. I
But
would absolutely recommend though, your first time playing this, play 1,000 points
yeah.
because you're
Mhm.
gonna get lost in the sauce of the secondary missions and the secret missions and spawning the enemies. Play 1,000 points. That way,
Yeah,
you only have two spawns. It'll just you won't be drinking as out of as big of a fire hose.
yeah. And just be prepared, they'll probably end up being, like, a huge power spike and, like, the Horde army that comes out. Just be prepared for that, like, you'll lose some stuff, and then they'll have some stuff come out, and you're like, "Oh, shit. I can't
Yeah,
can't
like
can't
yeah,
deal with that."
retreat. Everybody retreat.
Uh,
Get back to the table edge. Run off the edge. Fall on the floor. It doesn't
yeah.
matter.
Um,
Get the hell out of there.
so then we played some 2K games. Uh, they didn't feel too bad. What faction we put these are the ones we played in person.
Yes.
Um, I ran my Space Marines, you ran Death Guard.
Death
We
Guard.
pr we pretty much both at 1,000 points, you have a pretty sizable force where you're bringing, and at this point, we knew, like, bring balanced of, like, various weapon
Mhm.
profiles because like, you don't know what you're gonna get. And I would say it felt good, but we kind of felt like our armies were OP for how we were rolling.
Mhm.
Um, like, we were almost just like we could just deal with the waves as they came and, like, how we're able to, like, position and do stuff, so it was never like a, "Oh, man, like, we're gonna get overwhelmed here." It was just like, yeah, we dealt with it. On to the next thing.
Yep. It was we had 4 spawn zones, and it did a good job of kinda dealing with things as they spawned, and
Mhm, yeah,
knowing like, all right, something else is gonna spawn there next round, but like it's okay. Not a big
yeah,
deal. We'll take care of
take
these.
care of it.
And
Yeah, at the 2K, I'd say it just felt like they didn't spawn enough things. Like, we'd spawn 4 things. We could each basically deal with, like, 2 of them, or, like, you could deal with 1 and I could deal with 3,
mhm,
and it just kinda went back and forth like that, and we were just never, like, super overwhelmed.
no.
Um, kind of, like, if we played 2K again, it'd basically be like a play until we die and, like, see how many rounds we can go.
Yeah, 2K might be the home for that. See how many rounds you can get. Like this game might last a while. I
Yeah.
also wonder because I know at one point it was like 3 pyrovores spawned, and then
Uh-huh,
next round it was like 3 biovores. And it's like, okay, these are okay support units, but like
uh-huh.
as being the enemy's main spawns, like these shouldn't be the main spawns.
Yeah, that I
So,
think that it's almost like that's where our how we rolled, like, failed us, but
mhm.
at the same time,
Yeah, it
yeah,
I
we were
I
just trying to not pick what we were playing.
I'm looking forward to playing again and adding in like that, hey, if we don't have a swarm option on the table, put a swarm option on the table.
Yeah, yep.
Because I think that A, it would look cooler,
Mhm.
and then I think it would be much more troublesome than someone that's like, "Oh, I'm gonna shoot a spore mine to the other corner of the table," and it's like,
Right,
I'm not
yeah.
afraid of that.
Yeah, like, you don't even
Mine.
like the biovores, they shoot the spore mines, but at the same time, it's like, yeah, that ability is just useless in
Yeah,
this
when
because
it's just a biovore, I'm like, I don't care.
yeah,
Now,
yeah,
if you got someone back there shooting those, and I'm also dealing with a unit of termagants and a unit of gargoyles, okay, well now that is a problem because I can't deal with all of these.
yeah. And then kinda after we hit, like, 1K, then we jumped it up to 2K, and then like we said, we kinda rolled it back to 1,500. Played against it still. I know in one game I played my AdMech. You played Knights in both games, and I'm pretty sure I played Space Marines in one of them too. I this I think we kinda both agreed this is where it felt the most balanced because we couldn't bring as much stuff as we'd want
Hmm.
to deal with everything, and then, like, the opponent's spawns were still, like, fairly high where, you know.
Right, the opponent was hitting 3 spawns,
Uh-huh,
so they were putting enemies on the table. You had some stuff to deal with things, and some stuff wasn't so good at dealing with things, but that was just kind of part of trying to build a balanced list. And
uh-huh,
uh, I think the 1500 was the Goldilocks zone. Now maybe if we had a third player, um, because the more players you have, the more opportunities you have to like earn RP.
mhm.
What does RP stand for again?
Like,
Reinforcement
reinforcement
points.
points, yeah.
Um, so you kind of get these secondary objectives. They can earn you reinforcement points. You spend the reinforcement points to do things. You can upgrade units. I think I turned like a single biologist purifier into like a defiler or something at one
Uh-huh,
point.
yeah,
It
yeah,
was it was like, oh, I don't think I should have been allowed to do that. Um, I mean, it costs a lot of RP, but anyhow, the more players you have, the more RP you're going to earn. So then maybe going 2,000 points
yeah,
is okay. Like maybe you should aim for having one more spawn than you have players.
yeah. Mhm,
So whatever that number is, if you have 4 players, then you go 2,500 points and put out 5 spawns. I don't
mm,
know. If we had 4 players, I think we'd be like, hey, you're going to play the AI and
Yeah.
play them a little more dynamically than
Mhm.
run forward, shoot, charge,
Yeah.
run in a
But
straight line down the field.
yeah, but at 2 players, I thought, like, 15 felt pretty good. We didn't have like, there was enough horde to make it overwhelming, yet it wasn't unmanageable for both players, and then you had enough of your armies to do what you needed to do, yet you weren't like, "Oh, yeah, I just have another unit that can step in and, like, do that if a unit dies."
Yeah. Yeah. Which
Um,
I guess I kind of segued us into some of our
yeah.
final points here. Having a dedicated game manager, GM here,
Mhm.
that would be phenomenal.
Yeah.
It would have been so cool.
Like, if we would have been able to have 3 players at one of them, and it was just like, "Oh, hey, like, you 2 are gonna play, I'm gonna play the horde," I think it could have been I think, I mean, however many, that could be really fun because you can just use that GM to be like they might start, like, they might roll, and then they could, like, just pick for you instead of having to, like, roll like we did. They could be like, "Okay, we're gonna do this."
Right.
And then they can just get the data cards out in front of them, and then they know what they're doing, and then it's just kinda like them playing
Like
against all 3,
like
where they
look
don't
at
have to be tactical, but they
no,
can
but
make
they could look at the state of the battlefield and be like, all
uh
right, what would hurt them the most right now?
yeah.
What do they
Mhm.
not want on the table
Exactly, yeah,
out
they
of
could
this category?
mhm, and
Um,
it even helped too just to have that actual person that you like, that extra person just to, like, roll against, so, like, you're rolling your attacks and your saves and stuff. There'd be a lot of times where you'd be doing your half the board, I'd be doing my half the board, and I'd, like, be like, "Okay, I'm attacking this thing." I'd roll my attacks, I'd roll my wounds, and then I just roll the Tyranid saves, where it's just like, "Okay, I just, did my thing." Like, actually, like, kinda rolling against somebody else
right, right.
without having to, like, slow down the other player from doing
Sure,
their shit.
sure. So for sure, that would be, I guess they're just trying to say like we need more friends. That's
Yeah, yeah,
that's
um,
probably a common issue in the Warhammer community. You need more
right.
friends.
Um, kind of the next thing that you'd almost need I it's like the weapon so, like, the weapon loadouts and stuff like that. A lot of how they have it set up, they don't really specify loadouts because you're supposed to just use your collections, but we would mess up sometimes, and you just be since we don't know the units as well, we'd just be like, "Oh, yeah, these are the weapons they have," and then you'd roll them, and you'd be like, "Oh, shit, they only had one of those."
Right.
You're like, "Well, there's a gun option and a shooty option. I guess this is the gun option."
Yeah, yeah. That we would do that for sure. We'd be like, what weapons does this person have? Or what's their melee or whatever? And then
Mhm,
you'd go back and look and it's like, well, since they shot already, I guess they have this loadout.
mhm,
Uh, it probably would have been more damning to us had they had loadout, B or C or whatever,
yeah,
but we accidentally just so that would be, I think, cool to kind of do before playing. Be like, hey, if we roll,
mhm.
uh, I'm trying to think of maybe like the guard. What's the Tyranid guard unit?
Tyrant Guard?
Tyrant Guard, yeah, yeah. Like, oh, I think Tyrant Guard have weapon loadout options. Be like, all right, if we roll a Tyrant Guard, we choose this loadout
Yeah,
the first time. If we put them on the table again, we choose this loadout, or just pick the best one. Be like, what's
mhm,
their best loadout?
yeah,
All right, let's just say any Tyrant Guard we roll, this is what they're gonna have.
mhm, yeah,
And then you take that, you write it on a sticky note, and you smack it on the data slate. And then if Tyrant Guard gets loaded up, when you grab that data slate, it's got the sticky note on it, so you don't forget. Hey, they have weapons, A, and here we go.
um,
That's another thing that having a GM would have, you know, probably been
yeah, they
super
just be
easy
like
for them to be like, okay, and then they could even be like, all right, what weapon set
mhm,
do the players not want to see right now?
yeah,
Do
for
they
sure,
need some melee in their face? Do they need a ranged option? I mean, you're just trying to feed them a shit sandwich.
mhm. And then kind of another thing that I thought of that needed so say you're running 2 players, uh, it always almost seemed like I wouldn't say clunky rolling it out as we played, but if it was like me and Carl are gonna line up and play this again, I think, like, say we're like, "Oh, hey, on Friday, we're gonna play," like, a week beforehand, one of us should just go in and, like, pre-roll all the spawns so that we'd have them, but you could also, like, organize them in a way that would be, like, you know, not manageable, but it would just, like, make sense. So instead of, like, round 1 being like, "Oh, we're getting those high rolls round 1," like, okay, maybe we do preload like, pre-do some of the swarmy stuff at the beginning of the game, tougher stuff end of the game, mix in tougher stuff in the middle as well. So you can almost, like, organize it to just, like, I wouldn't say play thematically, but just, like, play in a way that
Sure.
made sense, with
The,
what was, kinda how
the
the game was.
the only variable you wouldn't be able to know beforehand is like if you do end up with misery cards and things.
Yeah. Mhm.
But if you had a predetermined, you know, six of them. Let's say you pick six of them
Uh-huh, yeah.
versus the what is it? There's 21 in Tyranids for the 7 to 9, which is going to be a
Mhm.
pretty commonly rolled one.
Mhm.
There's 21 in there. Well, if you just said, "Hey, we're going to look at these 10, and they're going to have these loadouts if we get these 10," like I do think that if you almost filtered the spawns, I think is a good way to phrase it.
Yeah.
If you pre-filtered the spawns and be like, this is kind of the battle we want to have.
Yeah.
I yeah, for sure. Which I mean
'Cause
the
even too, like, if you, like, fully, like, pre-rolled, you could even just be like, um, "I need 24," or how many rounds? Like, so there's 4 or 5 rounds, you need 20, and then you could throw in, like, an extra 5 spawns and be like, "These are what I rolled," and you could
yep,
just organize them up in a way and make it make sense.
right, right.
And then, like, if you did that a week beforehand, you could almost, like, I'm not gonna say forget by the time you played the game, but
Oh, that's a good point. That is a good point. You may yeah.
that way you're not just like
That way you're not playing too gamey because there's times where
yeah,
like you can't help it, right? You're like,
yeah.
hey, don't come within X amount of distance because when
Mhm,
they spawn, they're gonna charge you, and
yeah,
we want them to just charge my melee unit. We want
right.
them to charge my Death Shroud Terminators.
We want them to charge or that or like, "Oh, just have them charge my tank because they won't kill it anyways."
Right,
Like
right. So we would kind of game the game by being like, all right, well, I'll go closer or you
mhm,
stay further so that we kind of know who they're gonna charge.
yeah.
Um,
'Cause you could do that in a way too, like, "Oh, there's the 4 spawns, like, these are what's spawning. Do I know where they're spawning? No."
that's
Or
true
do I
too. That's
you
true.
could do it in a way that would that
Yeah,
makes sense,
you
and
could
it
kind
just
of
I think it helped play quicker too.
yeah,
Like, that's the one thing,
for sure, because
like
that's so we have the battle report, which if you're watching this on YouTube, it's kind of in the background here, but we're not really talking about it because it ended up being like 4 hours long,
yeah.
and I was a couple hours into trying to edit it and figure it out, and I was only like 30 minutes of actual gameplay in, and I was
Mhm.
like, this thing is gonna have 6 hours into editing by the time I get there at least, and it it's not. Next time we do a battle report, we're just gonna record it as we're doing it and be done with it and not try to do post editing stuff to that extent later. And we were attempting the voiceover, whatever. Um, but yeah, the time it does take a while
Mhm.
because you're kind of, you're each piloting your own army, and then you're each kind of trying to, all right, what would the horde do here? What are they going to spawn? And then you go start doing that stuff, and then it's like, well, what weapons do they have? And you're like, I don't know. I guess they have this.
Mhm.
Maybe we've already used two different weapons loadouts at this point. Uh, it is a little bit longer, and that we're also learning the new game mode. So
Yeah.
you know, I I'm sure it was starting to play faster in games 5 and 6 than it was in games 1, 2, and 3.
Mhm.
Like, but that's normal.
Yeah.
Uh, Overall, it is a ton of fun.
Mhm.
It's 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 the most I mean, it's the most fun way I've seen of playing Warhammer just because it's relaxing. I'm not as invested into this because there's a part of me that does want to watch the horde have 100 plus models on the board and literally just run over top of our units and eat us all. And like
Mhm.
that's fun.
Yeah.
Like, we're having fun, yay!
Uh, yeah, overall, it was a blast. Even, like, in the ones we were learning, it was just like, you're going out and doing your thing, but it was just really fun because you could just sit, uh, have a beer, hang out, and, kinda play your game.
Yeah, yep, yep. And then,
It almost
like,
felt like I wouldn't say, like, board gamey-esque, but it almost felt like a,
yeah,
like, board game in a way.
yeah, a little more board gamey for sure. And I was less concerned about, okay, I got to make sure I use this stratagem at this time,
Mhm.
and it was just like, ah, I forgot my stratagem. I don't care.
Or it's like, "Oh, I don't even have any CP anyways," so
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. I mean, that's kinda how it turned out more times than not.
And then you have the secret missions where you might be looking for accidental ways to like leave your teammate hung out to dry, which I don't think we had any of those.
We didn't really, but
I think I had one time, but I traded it in because it was
yeah, we kind of avoided it, not it's just, like, tough, like, honestly, that's
had
I
we had
don't
3 people. Had we
yeah,
had 3 players, I would have definitely been more on par with doing the, like, "Hey, one of the players' commanders needs to die."
yeah,
And it's like, "Okay." Like, you know.
and I think even too, with more players, like, that stuff could just happen organically where you're like, "Hey,
Right.
somebody's gotta go do this," and then their commander goes and does it, and you're like, "Cool,"
Yeah,
and you
for sure. Um, any other final thoughts here?
No, I mean, I think we pretty much covered it, like we said, this was Horde Mode is made up by the guys over at Poor Hammer. They do also do like a podcast and some YouTube videos. They're pretty fun. We listen to them. Check them out. They're pretty casual um, as far as 40K goes, which is uh, another good listen. But this is really
Yes.
fun. Check it out if you have it. If you're 40K curious and maybe you started up an army and you wanna get a game in, you could play in theory, you play this by yourself because you don't have to really have an opponent,
I almost did
and you can just
once.
and you could just kinda, have fun with it, it's just getting your models out there that you
Yep.
have
I
done up and
almost played
playing.
this solo once.
Yeah.
I
I've thought about playing it solo too, just
Yeah.
to get them out there, but usually painting or doing something else.
Yep. If you guys let us know if you want to see a battle report on this sometime, we could certainly get one out there. And
Mhm.
um, especially like thematic battles would just be so cool.
Yeah.
If maybe take 2 chaos and then horde space marines.
Mhm.
Like, super fun. Super fun. But yeah, that's all I got.
Yep. Yeah, I don't have anything else. Thanks for joining us today. Listening and checking us out on YouTube. If you're on YouTube, remember like and subscribe. They go a long way. If you're on, listen to us on a podcast. Check out our YouTube channel and also like and subscribe.
Yes, yeah. If you can just run over there, drop a like, a subscribe, a comment, whatever, we greatly, greatly appreciate those. Your comment
Yes.
could be like, "Hey, I'm from a podcast," and then that's it. Be like, awesome, thanks,
Hmm.
bro.
Yep.
All right, well, until next time, bye.
Bye.